What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so last night, of course, was Game 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals between the number 1 seeded in the East, Boston Celtics, and the number 5 seeded Dallas Mavericks. If the Boston Celtics win this series and win the championship, they will claim the record for most titles by a franchise. They're currently tied with the Lakers with 17. It would make championship number 18 for the Celtics franchise. If Dallas wins the championship, it will be their second franchise championship. It will be the first for Luka Doncic, the second for Kyrie Irving, and they will become the second lowest seed ever to win a championship. The lowest seed, of course, was the 1995 Houston Rockets. Won the championship back in 1995. They were defending champion, but they were just the 6th seed in the West at a 47-35 record, if memory serves me correctly. The second lowest seed ever to win a title was the 1969 Boston Celtics, who were 48-34, I believe, that year. Matter of fact, I think that was the first year that the NBA had an 82-game schedule, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the first year, either the first or second year. And they were the 4th seed in the East. And they beat some good teams, too. One of the teams that they beat on their way to the title is the much vaunted New York Super Team, which, of course, were one of the great teams of all times and would, of course, win their first title the very next year, the 1969-70 season. But enough history. Let's get to this game. I had a very bad feeling about this game. I am openly rooting for Dallas because I'm rooting for Kyrie Irving, and I kind of want Luka Doncic to get a championship as well. But I had a really bad feeling about this game. Number one, Boston has had over a week of rest. You can make the argument that Dallas is a little tired. I think they just dispatched to Minnesota. I don't think it's been a week. I don't think so. I think it was May 31st. So maybe it was about a week, but Dallas has played some tough teams, whereas Boston has had a cakewalk, in my opinion. And Boston's been off for maybe like a week and a half or closing in on 2 weeks now, I think about it. So they've had plenty of rest, plus the emotional tribute to Bill Walton. Of course, Bill Walton, one of the great players in the history of the NBA, career was derailed by injuries for most of his career. But he ended his career on a relative high note, winning a championship, his second of his career, with the Boston Celtics as a 6-man. Of course, he won 6-man a year, 85-86, emotional tribute to Bill Walton. So with that as the environment and them being hyped up, it didn't go particularly well. Plus, they had the return of Kristaps Porzingis, who had missed more than a month. And he was visibly tired at times. But man, for a guy who's been out for over a month, he surely did have an impact in this game, both offensively and defensively. Kristaps Porzingis, in just 21 minutes of play, had 20 points, nearly a point per minute, plus minus, plus 13. He had 6 rebounds, 3 block shots. One of them came in a transition block. I think Dallas had got a steal. Porzingis sprinted down the court and blocked the shot. You know, this guy is 7'3", so he takes up a lot of space and he can create a lot of difficult angles for defenders as far as them trying to score over him. 8 of 13 from the floor, 2 of 4 from downtown. And some of those threes were absolute bombs. Shot some of them from Baghdad. So to me, the players who really dictated the game for the Boston Celtics were Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, who supposedly is a sidekick, 22 points, 7 of 12 shooting, had his troubles from the free throw line, though only 6 of 11. But he had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocked shots. Jason Tatum, who's supposed to be the man, was doing his best Magic Johnson impression for much of this game. Very unaggressive, especially in the first half of the game. Finished with 16 points, 6 of 16 shooting, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, also committed, however, 6 turnovers. And Derek White also contributed. Matter of fact, all the starters were in double figures. Derek White had 15 points, Drew Holiday 12 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and Al Horford, who was 38 years old, and I believe he's closing in on the record for most playoff games played without a championship. Reportedly said that he's starving for a championship. 10 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 of 5 from downtown. Speaking of Drew Holiday, look, you can't stop Kyrie Irving, but Drew Holiday, whose reputation as a one-on-one defender, took a hit with how dirty Jimmy Butler did him last year. But don't make no mistake about it, Drew Holiday is normally a great one-on-one defender, and Kyrie Irving caught some of that. Now, some of those were just shots that Kyrie missed, but clearly the activity of the Boston Celtics defense on Kyrie, plus just the threat of a guy like Kristaps Porzingis out there, caused Kyrie Irving to miss a lot of shots that he normally makes. Kyrie Irving, probably the best finishing small guard, or perimeter player, I should say, in the NBA, uncharacteristically missed a lot of shots and missed a lot of wide open shots too. This is a guy that is almost a 50-40-90 guy a lot of seasons. Only 6 of 19 from the floor, 0 of 5 from downtown. Not a good game at all. Luka Doncic, put up the numbers. 30 points and 10 rebounds, but something is key there. Luka Doncic, who normally gets around 8 to 9 to 10 assists per game, only had 1 assist last night. 1 assist. And a lot of that came from 2 things. Players not making shots, and Boston forcing Luka to be more of a scorer rather than a scorer and a facilitator. And he did not really have a lot of help from other players. They really only have 2 guys that can really score on a one-on-one situation. The other players have to basically be, they're garbage scorers for the most part. Derrick Jones Jr. and others. They clean up the glass, or they rely on Luka or sometimes Kyrie setting them up and to be in a position to score. But when they're not in that position, or when they're not having the easiness, or I don't want to say easiness, but when they're not in a position where those guys can set them up to score, they struggle. Derrick Jones Jr., only 2 of 9 from the floor. P.J. Washington, 5'11", but 0 for 3 from downtown. Trying to look at some of these guys. Tim Hardaway Jr., who's pretty much been out of the rotation in a lot of ways, did not score. And as a team, the Dallas Mavericks only hit 26% of their three-point shots, only 42% of their overall shots, whereas Boston shot almost 48% from the floor and 38% from downtown. At one point in time in this game, Boston had an almost 30-point lead, and they wound up winning 107-89. So they take a 1-game-to-none lead in this best-of-7 series. But I gotta say, man, a lot of Boston fans are already acting like the series is over, and it certainly is not. Need I remind people from a historical standpoint, Game 1 of the 1985 NBA Finals, Boston absolutely destroyed the Los Angeles Lakers in that Game 1. I think it was by like a 34-point margin or something like that. It was called the Boston Massacre. But if memory serves me correctly, LA won 4 of the next 5 games and won that series in 6. And the oldest player on the floor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, age 38, one Finals MVP. Still a record that holds today. So one game does not make a series. In game one of 1998 NBA Finals, in that series, Utah, who had home court, won that game. And I didn't panic. Some Bulls fans panic. I didn't panic because I knew Chicago went on the road. And Chicago themselves won 4 of the next 5 games. Just to do another comparison, 2001. Allen Iverson went off in game 1 of that series, scoring 48 points against the Lakers in overtime, enough to send his team to a victory. What was so amazing about that 48-point game, and Jesse Gladsaget said something about this on X. Shout out to Jesse Gladsaget. I think there was a stretch in that game where Iverson went 17 minutes without scoring. So that gives you an idea of how on fire he became when they needed him. But anyway, I'm just putting these out as examples. Like, one game does not make a series. So Dallas is still in this. Even if Boston wins both games at Boston, all they really did was hold court. And if Dallas does the same thing, you go to game 5, series tied 2-2. Now, if one team goes up 3-0 or 3-1, then we're talking about something different. So yeah, I do want to say this before I end this video. I do want to say this. The media are going to do something very, very insidious, in my opinion. If Dallas somehow wins this series, then Luka's going to get a lot of the praise. Kyrie will get some, but mostly it's going to be Luka. I'm looking at you, Stephen A. Smith. But if Dallas loses this series, better believe that they're going to turn on Kyrie Irving and make him out to be the fault for why they lost. No matter what happens, no matter what our eyes see, they're going to blame Kyrie Irving because that's just what they do. Just like Jaylen Brown, to me, has been a better clutch performer in postseason play than Jason Tatum. Historically, if you just watch this team. But yet, Jason Tatum almost never gets any criticism. Not real criticism. When I know I had some Boston fans say that's not true. I'm not talking about fans posting anonymously. I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about the people that get paid the millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to give us their opinion. They almost never go in on Jason Tatum. It's always Jaylen Brown didn't do something or somebody else. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.